who never took his eyes off the ideals he started with. Bedri.
Hi, everybody. I'm my life evolving as an artist, as a struggler for freedom, anti-racism, and using only arts and thinking has come a long way. And I wanted to share some of these experiences with you here. I'm a workaholic. I sleep like 4 hours. I try to lead 3 different lives. And the title of my speech today is called The Life Journey of an Artist Towards Freedom. And so this is the title of the speech. Well, I'm a professional artist, before all, and I paint for a living. And on the other hand, I'm a columnist, and I write books, and I'm an actor. I do all these things on the side, and they feed me. But the common general idea of all these things for me is the search for freedom. Well, I'm glad I have those cards because the prompter is not here, okay? We all have our inspirational role models. And for me, I was lucky here in India 2 days ago. One of my big persons that I adore is Gandhi, and I could visit his tomb with my wife, and it was very important for us. And we all have our role models. I have, besides Gandhi, Ataturk, Mandela, Muhammad Ali, or Picasso, Charlie Chaplin. We all have our inspiration sources. And in my Turkish environment, I was lucky to have 2 inspiration sources. One is Ataturk, that we see here, and the founder of modern Turkey. He brought equality of men and women. He brought secularism, importance given a lot to science, art, technology, and especially democracy and world peace. These are very important values, needless to say. And my father, he was a politician, struggling politician against fascism, against anti-secular totalitarianism. I learned a lot from him. And one of the things probably I learned the most was that in life, you can always change things, challenge things, dream big. Nothing is impossible. And he was an artist of life, I would say. And Dr. Bedri Baykam. And besides that, he managed to stay my best friend all his life, till I lost him some 15 years ago. Then the point is, we pass our ideas from father to son. It's like a torch. So what I took from my father, I passed it on to my son. When he was only 2 years old, I took him aside. I said, listen, son, in life, the most important thing is freedom. And he looked at me, and I think that he got the message quite well. He never forgot that. So now he's 12. He plays a lot PlayStation, as you might all know. So I tell, hey, Supi, you know, you have to do your homework. Well, you're staying too much on PlayStation. Sorry, Dad, this is my freedom. You know, can't touch me. You got the lesson really well. You know, words can be very tricky. Democracy is another tricky word. You know, in Turkey, unfortunately, nowadays, we have what's called advanced democracy, as they label it. With advanced democracy, you can't talk on the phone. Everybody's tabbed. Internet is under censorship. And so they're watching advancedly democracy from very close. This is what's happening. And on the other hand, there's some heavier parts to it, unfortunately. We'll talk about it in a couple of minutes. Words can be tricky, we said. For instance, the U.S. operation in Iraq that killed 1 million humans, it was called Operation Iraqi Freedom, if you remember. Like, you free people by giving their soul to the skies. Unfortunately, we laugh about it, but what can I say, you know? Among us, there are many people over 50, right? Now, and many younger, don't misunderstand me, but among those 50 and more, who could have envisioned that the year 2000 and beyond was going to be a battleground for race and religion wars? We never thought that. Come on, no way. We thought there would be flying taxis, holidays in Mars. We got none of that. We went back to Middle Ages. That's what we got. Now, I said, well, there's always art. As a professional artist, since I've known myself, exhibiting since I was 6, I can always fall back on my art, and that keeps my spirit fresh, my ideas fresh. And this is going to be my journey, my trip, till the end. But on the other hand, art itself had many surprises waiting for me and for the world, because I had to realize, look at the visuals on this issue right now, that not everybody was equal in the arts. You know, most of the time, passports and skin colors were defining the careers of artists. That's what I noticed in the early 80s as a struggling artist in California first and around the world while exhibiting. And museums in the West is great. You go to Western museums to admire your Western colleagues. This is what it's all about. The funny thing is that the background of modern art comes mostly from Eastern and Southern cultures, all the roots of modern art. But when Western artists mostly take something from other cultures, they are being seen as doing something very good, which is, I have nothing against. They say they are enlarging their horizons. When the opposite, no, the opposite is not valid. If an Indian artist would do something around surrealism, or a Turkish or a Colombian, they say, no, 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 you are copying. You are being a derivative artist. We say, come on, even the roots of surrealism comes from other cultures. No, this is very, this has to stay mostly, for a long time, it stayed a very Western field. And I distributed a manifesto in 1984 at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. And it was called Modern Art History is a Western Fait Accompli. You see, I always try to move things, change things, because of this idea that I can change the world. You know, of course, it can get tiring. And the night before I did the attack on the museum, my father calls me from Turkey. He says, Bedri, don't attack the reception. Please, don't do it. I said, Dad, I know what I'm doing. And anyway, didn't you tell me that we could change the world? Calm down. And he says, okay, if you trust, if you believe, go ahead, do it, you know. And actually, everything went well, and my book, Monkeys' Right to Paint, talks a lot about that. Why monkeys? I mean, do us, monkeys, do we have the right to do contemporary art without staying folkloric? Can we do contemporary art as any French, English, or German artist? That's what it's all about. So things have changed in the last few years, but we are added in international biennials and art fairs as like a spice, flavor, an international flavor. But the big retrospectives and everything, they stay mostly Western still. You know, one more important issue, the rest of this you can find out in the book Monkeys' Right to Paint, but free art and free thinking can only survive in open democracies, that we know. And where freedom of speech is alive. And over the past 25 years, I tried to contribute to this field with other friends in Turkey to freedom of speech and democracy. But this is a very expensive journey. And the cost can be leaving life. It can be dying. And you have to take that risk. And unfortunately, I spent in this past 25 years, which is after I came back from the United States in '87, I've had many journalist friends, writer friends, academician friends killed by, unfortunately, dark age terrorists because my friends were, of course, secular democratic writers. And unfortunately, even today, there are many of our friends, my personal friends, other intellectuals' friends, writers, journalists, academicians, deans of universities, leader of leftist parties in prison that have been there for 4, 5 years. Now that's easy to say. They don't even know what they are accused of. There's nothing concrete against them. They say, oh, you didn't like the government. You were trying to overthrow the government. Well, nobody is obliged to like the government, etc. But it stays very They are not condemned to anything, but they stay in prison. So we go to support their court case, which is 100 kilometers away from Istanbul, which we can come close only, let's say, from here to there, like 10 meters, and we try to hug each other from that distance. But things are not easy. We can say they live in small cells, and we say, well, as long as you got infinite horizons, that's okay in your heart. Well, that's easy to say, poetic words for us to say out here, but imagine you would be staying away from your beloved ones, your husbands, your wives, your kids, your parents, for 4 or 5 years. By seeing them, touching them once a month, what would life be like? You know, the world really should know that every regime needs to defend itself, including democracies. Because when democracies become naive democracies, they get eaten up by totalitarianism, and then freedom of speech becomes a memory only. You see, the point is, I think the world deserves to be a better place with much more humbleness and less greed. Well, we know that money is not everything. That, let's say, if anybody of us owned Manhattan or Piccadilly Circus, it wouldn't change much. The sun would be the same. The football match or a book that we read is not going to change much. But on the other hand, we know that for big nations, this greed and will to power for money is creating those ethnic religious wars that is disturbing each of us' lives, besides fluctuations in the stock market or whatever. They want to redesign the world, reshape world maps, do everything for oil, for this, for that. And you see, if instead of this, the money they spent on wars is, let's say, like this. Oh, this is the image where I'm coming next. The images are not always in sync with my talk, but you can do the collage in your head, since I'm an artist. I let you be creative artists when you follow up. The reason is that my assistants, you know, we were talking about the importance of pets. Her dog gave birth to little doggies, and she couldn't finish well because of this. The love of dogs can be sometimes problematic. So anyway, the issue is that, on the other hand, religion can become a problem. Why? Because religion normally is something we love, is doing like a well-sharing of world relations and for helping each other. It's a good thing between people's hearts. But in the wrong hands, religion sometimes can become a threat, as we know, and it can cause wars and terrorism, etc. instead of a solidarity act. Now, for instance, sometimes through zeitgeist, you can know where the world is going to. One of my friends calls me on September 11, 2001, as I walk in the street in Istanbul, and he says, "Oh, go back to a TV set right away. Your book has become reality. The Bone. Look at what's happening." And unfortunately, I had foreseen that in order to attract the attention, somebody was going to attack the largest country's largest city, largest building with the largest available plane head on. And that was, everything was in the book, in that novel, The Bone. And needless to say that I lived some quite interesting days following that. So, I mean, some people had read the book in the morning. In the afternoon, after lunch, they would see it on TV. They thought they had lost their minds. No, I'm not joking. I lived quite strange moments. I have had my direct share of that stormy weather with the conflicts between democracy, freedom of speech, and religion. We're trying to take the defense of a monument called Monument of Humanity, and coming out from that press conference, I was attacked by a fundamentalist, a religious fundamentalist, and these were the pictures you saw. And I almost died, and I was saved in the last moment by an operation. And I was I never felt any remorses, but I said, it should be hard if you die for your family. That's the only thing you're thinking. But then after my life was saved, 2 weeks later, I was out. A month later, I was writing harsher articles. I was still going to hottest debates on TV. I wanted to show them one thing. You can kill us, you can wound us, but you cannot scare us. You cannot try to stop us by stabbing or shooting on us. This was, I think, the most important message I was trying to give towards that. The attack on April 18, was a little, how do you say, 2 weeks later. That attack happened to me on April 18. 2 weeks after, in Mexico, Guadalajara, we had made a World Congress of World Art Associations, and Turkey, I was a Turkish president, and we had suggested that Leonardo da Vinci's birthday, April 15, should become World Art Day. Because art is the nemesis of all the people who are totalitarian, who are fascist, who are racist. So one day of full celebration of art, like World Peace Day or Lovers Day, etc., would enhance this. And this was accepted unanimously. So you are welcome to use that strength of art on April 15, 2012, and from the following years to cheer up, not just for Leonardo and art, but for freedom of speech and democracy. Because we feel art is a key, really, for brotherhood and peace. Now, the world is changing fast through innovation, science, technology, and we have to struggle to keep the human factor alive in the midst of all this globalization we have seen, and all these elements where the world is designed with capitalist interests and world interests, etc. So if we don't want to be swallowed by the main united big brothers company, we got it really to stick together and know that every little thing we each do contributes to this struggle in keeping this freedom of speech or human factor alive. Because the world has been wasting too much energy in this capitalism's profit-oriented, ethnic, religious-rooted wars, and that unfortunately prepare more chaotic futures. And let's say, unfortunately, world war risks, as we know, that we keep passing near them all the time. Maybe leaving our egos as much as we can is the way out. That doesn't mean not enjoying our achievements, but it means working in solidarity with a collective consciousness, as we're doing it here, and against this oppressive imperialistic pressures of who are master of censorship. And you know, one important detail: of course, that we respect religion, we respect democracy, we respect conservative thoughts, but everybody has to know that other free lifestyles are as respectable. So we shouldn't behave as if religious things are untouchable and the rest of the progressive, liberal, or this other type of ideas, they can be easily attacked and they are not as important or sacred, or and that they can be very vulnerable in front of democracies. No. As much as we respect religion and every religion, everybody knows that, has to understand that freedom of speech and art and freedom of expression are as much untouchable and important for each of us. Isn't it surprising that lately, because of this ethnic and religious wars that the world is igniting, even the Western super countries are getting now this wave back in their own countries, and all these wars that they have ignited start sometimes, unfortunately, hitting them back, even in their own territory. So what do we say? We remember the famous word, one race, the human race. This is what counts. We are not here to divide each other on different religions, ethnicities, and we have to look at our common future with brotherhood and also sisterhood, needless to say. And when we say concepts such as peace, love, and freedom, these are not concepts that are outdated. Unfortunately, some young friends here might think that, oh, peace, love, you know, what is this? Is this, you know, a hippie from the 60s? No. Peace and love and freedom are really the key points, and they have to be a part of our lives during our long journey struggle, and they are values we all know that are worth even dying for, because we know that it's going to be our long journey for these values. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So when a friend introduced me to Bedri, she said that he does spectacular art, but also says what's on his mind. So thank you for living up to your